All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Awfully Silly, the show where we feature the absurd, the wacky, the tacky, the hysterical. My name is Conception SR. I am your host of this wonderful show. And today we are celebrating the holidays like they're meant to be celebrated, which is, of course, with horror games. We're going to be going through some awfully spooky games today. We got a couple of real gems for you. Before we get started, though, just want to go over a few things to make sure that we know everything that's on the docket coming up. First of all, AGDQ 2022. It's happening. It's coming up on January 9th. You can visit gamesdonequick.com for more information and detailed dates on the event, such as the schedule and everything like that. The GDQ Sum of Best Segments channel is also now launched on YouTube, which is a highlight channel that features regular videos, just like our main channel, but with small highlight reels of all of our main events and hotfix. You can use !highlights in Twitch chat to learn more about that channel. And if you miss out on any GDQ hotfix shows, check out our archive of past runs and shows at youtube.com/gamesdonequick. If you are watching on YouTube sometime in the future, feel free to join us over at twitch.tv/gamesdonequick to check out our live shows starting most nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. And while you're there, Hotfix is funded in part thanks to your subscriptions and bits, so please consider subscribing to help support future broadcasts. Without further ado, though, I believe we are just about ready to get started with our first game, which you can see the Japanese title there below the screen, but the English translation of that title is Seven Mansions Ghastly Smiles, which I would like to just read a description of the game by the runner, Punchy, provided to me when we were planning the show, which is as follows: a survival horror primarily controlled by way of moonwalking, where your goal is to fight a Gundam powered by poop water. So I think we have a lot to look forward to, and it fits perfectly in the show. So without further ado, Punchy, why don't you go ahead and take it away for us?
You really kept that description. Right, yes. Hello, I'm Punchy. This is Seven Mansions Ghastly Smile, or Nanatsu no Hikan Senritsu no Bisho, because this game is a J exclusive. This game was never released outside of Japan. It has an English fan translation, mind you, but yes. So I will get started with a new game here. This is going to be covering the K scenario of gameplay. There are two characters you can choose from. They follow roughly similar plot beats. K is the faster and more action-heavy of the two. Rain involves a lot of puzzles. I don't like thinking, so I don't want to do that. I don't play K. He's faster. Thinking too slow. Can't be bothered with that. There's kind of a Leon and Claire thing going on with that. So I will count down from 3, because I assume there is a timer. 3, 2, 1. Video games. Right, first thing to know about this run, skipping cutscenes is done with start plus B, not just start. Start plus B has to be a button combo. And a lot of things count as a cutscene that you would not expect. Here's the moonwalk. It's kind of more like an 8-way run than a moonwalk, I get, but it's done by holding down the aim button, because this game normally has tank control, but for some reason if you hold down the aim button, you unlock the power of the multi-way run. And I don't think it's I think it's a bug, personally. And that seems like a very uncharitable assertion at first, but I assure you it will seem less uncharitable as we go on, because you'll see a bunch of other bugs this game has. But anyway, this is a survival horror game, primarily controlled with moonwalking, and our goal is in fact to defeat a Gundam made of poop water. That's the primary enemy type in this game. That thing. Look at that dude. What a great dude. Right now, we're in the lab of a professor whose name McPherson, that's it, there we go. I'm trying to recall the plot here, I'm gonna have to explain this to you as we go. We're in the lab of Professor McPherson. Something bad has happened, our friend Rainer is being attacked by horrible creatures or whatever. I'm gonna moonwalk over this yonder way. It's all good. Our first goal is merely to move our strikingly dressed individual to where Rainer is. We're going to do this by completely ignoring every enemy in the game, for the most part. Get a knife, with which we will be able to bend the space-time continuum to our will. More on that later. I'm going to equip the knife. Unlike in many survival horror games, knife only is not only practical, it's actually very good. That little animation counts as a cutscene. A lot of animations in this game count as cutscenes and can therefore be skipped with Start plus B where you would not expect, but it's a very awkward input. Also, this game has like menu layering, so if you skip cutscene but do it badly, you can open the pause menu and the map menu at the same time, and everything just doesn't work at that point. Because the game doesn't know what to do with it when you've got two menus open at once. Anyway, I'm getting a passcode for a turntable here, because Kay is not thinky, he just finds the passcode on a table. Normally, Reina has a puzzle there that you gotta solve, like a video game, and Kay's just like, nah, I'm gonna just find it. I'm good. Get that. Get me a screwdriver. Moonwalk my way over. Oh, that's more like a sidewalk. That is a computer AI that's talking to us. Its name is Morris. It mostly just instructs you on where to go. I kind of forget why it does this, to be perfectly honest with you. My recollection of the plot's a bit fuzzy. This is also my second language, so please bear with me. We are unlocking the elevator and some doors, using the screwdriver we picked up on this cabinet to get a keycard. And now the first port of call is hoping the game doesn't softlock on the very first boss fight, a thing that can happen. It's not even really a boss, actually, it's just the first forced enemy encounter. Boss is very generous. Anyway. Anyhow. Strafe over yonder. Now we have Reina. Right, so she's an AI-controlled partner. This is bad. Because Reina can hurt you. This game has friendly fire, and now we control the space-time continuum by pausing. See, when I pause, my attack still goes through, but the enemy's does not. Ooh, exciting. Via this property, I can basically freeze any enemy in place as I want and repeatedly stab them to death. I have faster methods of going about this than stabbing as we proceed, but pausing the game to break the timescale of events is surprisingly strong. I think this is a concession left over from the co-op mode, because both players have to pause at the same time to actually pause the game. I think it would still work in co-op, you just have to be really, really coordinated. Oh, there's also that problem, where if you do it too early, your knife just whips clean through. Because everything has a horrendous amount of post-it invuln in this video game. Turntable code. I have this written down. Another enemy with which I will manipulate with time spent. No, I got hit. I'm going to stay paused. It's okay, so I don't get stumbled to death. Because otherwise I can catch a real bad end of it. Differences between the two characters is that Reina and Kay have access to completely different sets of weapons, and Kay has significantly more health than Reina. Reina dies to a stiff breeze.
A stiff breeze.
Which is unfortunate because I'm not the one controlling her. I have to keep her out of harm's way sometimes. We're talking to a man named Schneider in this office. We don't actually get to see him because they didn't feel like modeling him. This is a mini-boss. I'm going to stab it to death and hope I get crits. Kind of, but you have to time it. There we go, that's a crit. There's crits, by the way, in this game. I didn't mention that. Your melee weapons can randomly crit. Except it's like, I'm not completely sure it's random. I think it's timing. If you get them immediately as soon as they come out of hitster. I don't know, it's weird, all right? That's the first mansion done. This game's called 7 Mansions. Keep track of the number of mansions. We are now at Mansion 2. This is just someone's house. It's the McPherson house, where the McPhersons live. We're not going to be here for very long. There is nothing bad happening here. This is just a nice place where nice people live. Right, so now we are continuing our search for Professor McPherson. So Kay and Reina split up at this point in the game. If you're playing Reina's scenario, you get a completely different stage here, but because I'm playing as Kay, I get his stage instead. This is where the paths kind of split. And yes, if Reina dies, the game is over, so I do actually have to pay attention to her. How many people run this game? Not many. You'll be shocked to learn not many people run a JP-exclusive Dreamcast game.
I feel like that's a trend.
A cutscene? Yeah. I skipped a cutscene there, very quick like, where there's just a dude in this area called the Environment Lab. He appears in various rooms, mostly just makes fun of you and then walks off. He's not very important, surprisingly. This counts as Mansion 3, by the way. Where Reina is will count as Mansion 4. But we don't get to see that. So our entire goal of this area is to log on to computer. Kay, however, cannot use computer, as he is not very thinky. So he needs assistance from Reyna to log on to computer.
Been there.
So here's the first instance of... No, seriously, we are actually, like, emailing Reyna right now so that she can help us with computer by using a different... There's, like, a big computer. It's in the top of the building that can scan for life forms in the area, question mark. So we're going to use that to figure out if the professor is here. But Kay doesn't know how to operate it because he's not good with computer. So, like, half of this area's challenge is email Reyna for help. This is why Reyna's campaign is slower, because she has to solve 2 puzzles at once. Her own problem and the other characters. Here's a manual for the system, the life search system. I forget what it's called. It has an abbreviated name. It stands for something, but it's one of those, like, funny loan words. Anyway, that's not important. Top floor. There's actually an enemy in this room that we're never going to see because I'm not going to advance, like, past the first 2 steps of the room because I can hit this computer from the corner. So he tries to use the computer and he's like, nope, can't get it to work. So I immediately run back downstairs and go cry for Reyna on the computer. He doesn't know how to do it. He has no idea how to compute it. And thus, now, the principal puzzle of the section is email. We must wait for Reyna to send an email. This occurs in real time. So once we're asking Reyna for help, we have to do this twice for some reason. He doesn't get all the contents of the email in one go. I have to look at the piece of paper over here that specifies the serial number of my computer, because apparently email is done by serial numbers in this universe. I don't know. Get a reply back. Reyna's asking, what's the computer serial number so I can send you this file that you apparently need to make a computer work. I've sent the serial number, and now we wait. Not for very long, but you do have to wait for Reyna to send the email reply back. And this occurs in real time. So check out these dance moves. You must get an email. Very much a game of its era. Actually having to wait. Done yet? No, Reyna has not logged onto computer. If you're playing the Reyna scenario, you do actually have to, like, go through a whole email chain to get the thing that Kay needs, otherwise you can't progress the game. Anyway, Reyna's done. Give me thing. Copied it onto a floppy disk. He knows how to copy things onto a floppy disk, but can't, like, work a normal terminal for some reason. So now we can use the life search system at the top of the building. Whereupon we will receive the grand revelation that the professor is, in fact, not here. Not a bit. So all of that was a load of faff. We went nowhere. But now that we know that he's not here, as we have logged on to computer, we are once again going to go back down and send Reyna an email saying, he's not here. And Reyna's going to be like, whatever, let's meet up in the lobby. So all of this accomplished very little in the grand scheme of things. I opened the save menu by accident. Let's not do that. Okay, Reyna has now been invited. She will be in the lobby the next time I get there. And now, with nothing left to do, we're going to phone home base using a transceiver that we received earlier. We're talking to someone called Tanya on the other end of the phone. I mean, it's a walkie-talkie, but, you know, this game was made in, like, the early 2000s, so phones, what? We're saying to her, McPherson wasn't here. Where else could he be? And Tanya's like, he might be in the shed. And we're like, shed? And is okay, where's that? By the lake. And she's like, it's probably not there, though. And I was like, well, nothing else to do. That's the sum total of the conversation occurring here, but in more words. And no, you cannot skip these dialogue sequences. You can skip almost every cutscene in the game, but just not those. Somewhat inexplicably. So ordinarily there would be a second sequence of puzzles here, to get the code to spin the shed, because the shed, you know, is the front for an evil laboratory, as is custom for games of this type. But as long as you know the code, you can just run up and put it in. Time to manipulate space-time again. There are 2 enemies in this room. Reina is of no use to us whatsoever. She's not going to help in combat one shot. She will eventually, just not now. That's too early. No, it wasn't. I told a lie. Oh, no, that was early, though. I'm hoping to get crits on these dudes. That's a crit. A bit late, though. Ideally, you get it after 3 hits. Oh, don't whiff. Sad display. There you go, 2 crits. Yes, doing that we can lock enemies in place. The pausing space-time manipulation gets very weird when guns get involved in the picture because projectiles work different. Even in a way I have yet to really understand. This is where a bunch of back and forth happens, because we looked at a video, saw our professor dude on a video, security video, and then we get a phone call. Another one. I will not translate this one. I'm just going to let words happen. Good work. Bad things are happening at home base, so we're going back to home base. This is where a bunch of back and forth becomes necessary. Because you can do that. You can just go back and forth between any location you've already been to in this game. This lab counts as another mansion, incidentally, so we're up to, like, what, 5 now? Yeah, that sounds right. Go back to the McPherson house. Bad things are happening at home base. You can tell because there's scary music playing now, even though there's not actually any enemies in the house. Oh, tell a lie, there is one. That's who we're going to meet. So someone named Christy has been kidnapped out of her house by this thing, I presume. Oh, swing, there we go. I was having a moment there. We need her pendant. You absolutely 100% need the pendant to beat the game. I don't know if it'll let you proceed without it, but if you could somehow get to the end without it, you wouldn't be able to win. But while we're here, going to pick up a shotgun that they just keep lying around. Of course they do. Kay can use the shotgun, Reina cannot. I think Reina might actually have a projectile weapon. Reina just acquires her projectile weapon arbitrarily at a certain point in the game. She has a laser pen. It's a pen that fires lasers. There is no explanation given for this device. It's just a thing she has. Like, she gets it off someone, but why she has a pen that can shoot, like, high-powered death beams is not really addressed. Okay, now we can proceed into the clone laboratory with the escalator that only works if you hit it diagonally for some reason. It's very finicky. I'm going to collect this tape recorder in the corner, and whether or not Reina gets munched is mostly random here. Did she do a good job of evading damage? No, she did not. Boo hiss. Reina's very fragile, so that's kind of a problem. She has to take not much damage. I have, you know, safeties built in for this. But I would like Reina to avoid damage where possible, because she has a lot less health than Kay does. It's like 33% less. And me not controlling her means that if she gets hurt too much, it becomes a problem, because if she dies, the game ends. Also, her laser pen is actually really, really strong, so she will be an asset in combat. Eventually. If the AI does what it needs to, which is a big if. Also, we're going back here because I can't get into the laboratory unless I have a voice recording of Dr. Schneider, who's like kind of the bad scientist guy, not like the good scientist guy like we're looking for. He's the bad scientist guy. You got that straight?
Got it.
I got his voice from the videotape. This is the last bit of like back and forthing required. Now we'll get deep into the laboratory where a bunch of delightfully unhinged things will occur. Strafing, strafing, strafing. All of this movement is very odd. I'm kind of used to it, so I'm sort of casually flying through it, but like I said, this game normally has tank controls for turning, but if you hold down aim, you can just move in whatever direction you feel like. Backwards, sideways, forward, back left, etc., etc. It's just whatever direction. I've used my tape recorder. I'm skipping all the voice lines. In the English fan translation, they actually manually dubbed all of those themselves. It's very impressive. Got a microbe scan. We must be cleared of not having the virus before we can go in. We have to put our safety suits on. You can't use guns with the safety suit inexplicably. I don't know why. It will just unequip one if you try. Right, so the gimmick of this area is that if I get hit by anything at all, I am instantly poisoned. And the poison requires a whole subquest type thing to get rid of. It's very slow, and honestly, I don't remember how to do it at this point, so I better not get hit. I have a backup save if I do, don't worry about it. Activate this thing. That robot in the corner, by the way, is not hostile, but Reyna will sometimes attempt to stab it herself for some reason. The robot will retaliate to this. And then she gets poisoned, which is bad for everyone. Okay, got it. That was the last danger. You need to activate that panel on the wall to kill those two enemies. That enemy spawns dangerously close to Reyna, who will usually get hit and get poisoned and then ruin your speedrun. A lot of stuff has to be done there in short order, but that's like the risk. That's the riskiest point of the run, honestly, is whether or not Reyna gets hit there and tanks everything by getting poisoned. Well, you get infected with, like, the virus that's turning everyone into, like, Hellraiser-looking dudes. I don't know, it's... This game is like every survival horror game at once. There's a zombie virus because, of course, there is. But there's also, like, robots and stuff because, yeah. It's quite a lot. You know, I've never noticed this before, but the suits are color-coded. Kay's is blue, Reyna's is red. There's a red stripe on it. How convenient. Right. So we couldn't proceed out of the lab until we got some chemical disinfectant, which you can just find back in the first room. But because we are clear and free of any poison, you have to actually unequip this first. There we go. Equip Kay with the shotgun now. But because we got through the section without getting poisoned by anything, we can just put the suits back in, take our microbe scanning, as it puts it, and we can just move on through. There would have to be an alternate path to get through if you got infected at any point, but because I did not, I can just proceed on to the next part of the lab. How many mansions did I say we're up to? Like 5? Yeah.
We do have a mansion counter on the stream for everybody else, just in case they forget.
I think this counts as mansion 6. I'm not sure. The game's logic for this is very strained at best. Reyna got hit there, which is kind of bad. Elevator code, laser pen bullets. You see how Reyna got hit once there and lost a quarter of her health? That's not unusual. Yes, I think the game counts this as Mansion 6. This game is a sequel. That's why it's called Seven Mansions. The first game was like an adventure game where you explored 7 puzzle-type mansions, but this is a sequel of a completely different stripe, so the mansion count is kind of forced. Anyway, Reyna got kidnapped in a cutscene. Both characters just got hypnotized for seemingly no reason, and then Reyna gets whisked away. I'd love to show you guys these cutscenes, but unfortunately it would probably add about 2 hours to the run.
2 hours, oh my.
There's a lot of FMVs that I'm skipping over, a lot of it.
I was gonna say, we just did our cutscenes episode that you were a part of last week, but maybe...
It was all in English.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 3 minutes here to escape this room, by the way. I picked up a glass cutter, and then I try and use it on the glass. We've escaped the room with 2 minutes and 50 seconds to spare. Thrilling. I, in the interest of absolute safety, am going to acquire these extra large med packs. and heal Reyna with it, because she's taken extra damage that I would rather not deal with. I could play it fast and loose, but I do not want to. She's also going to get bit by this dude. That's normal. Right, now I'm going to equip Reyna with her laser pen. Ooh. As we have our first major boss, I'd say, coming up here. Like, a boss with, like, a lot of health. Okay, this whole thing's very long. I skipped a cutscene. We get given 2 bombs here by the dude who showed up in the environment lab to make fun of us. We're now going to blow the entire lab sky high. Things are advancing very quickly. But before we do that, we must rescue the professor, who is stuck in this room behind whatever this is. Reyna, please help me. Good, she's helping. I'm double tapping. That's a bug in the game, where if you pause at the wrong time, guns will fire twice. But Reyna helping with her gun is very helpful, her laser pen, because the laser pen actually does significantly more damage than anything I am capable of doing. Nice, good kill, actually. But Reyna's AI sometimes chooses not to participate in the fun, and will just stand there, looking at you, judging you for your choices. Never fun. Anyway, we made a bomb. It casually makes a very small explosion and frees the professor from this room. There is a hidden laser pen battery in this box. It's not indicated at all. And now I'm going to unequip Reyna's bullets, because otherwise she will most likely shoot me in the back of the head with them. This game has friendly fire. I've specifically designed this route to only give Reyna ammunition when it is strictly speaking necessary or advantageous to me. Most of the time, if I leave her to her own devices with the laser pen, she will shoot me with it. This is bad, because the laser pen does quite a lot of damage. Like, if she had it in this room, she'd shoot me in the back of the head with it. Guarantee you. It's happened every time I've tried it. So we're backtracking now to put bombs in these rooms, because we're going to blow up the entire building. Fun, fun, fun. Don't push Reyna forward. She's going to get bit by this dude on the way out. That is, once again, fairly normal. Reyna, like, always tries to get into a fist fight with that guy and always loses. Unlock the big door ahead of time. We've not yet planted the other bomb. Right, well, if Reyna gets bit here, she should be able to survive it. She didn't get bit, that's good. I'm going to heal her anyway. At this point, Reyna has taken about 0.7k's worth of damage. But I've had to heal her twice. Okay, menuing. So all items are picked up as K, but I have to transfer them over to Reyna's inventory, including ammo for her own gun. This game works like that for reasons. How do I menu? There we go. Equip the laser pen, then equip her bullets, and equip my bullets, the Express Buckshot. It's like Buckshot, but Expressier. It does more damage. What is Express Buckshot? Like, what, fast food for guns? Anyway. Moving on. We are now fighting Satan. I messed up the first pause. Satan's just chilling out here. When I shoot him with the Express Buckshot, he does a very long animation where he kind of shakes his head and goes, "Oh no, I've been shot." I'm just going to pause through that because I can't actually do any more damage while he's, like, being embarrassed. So I just got to wait that out. Good. I let Reyna do the final 2 blows there. Not on purpose, but because I didn't press the fire button. Now I have an extra bullet. Works for me. That was actually a pretty good fight. Aside from getting punched in the face by Satan. Satan's gone now. He melted. Don't ruminate on that any further. Plant the bomb. There we go. Oh yeah, also you have to manually open the front door. If you forget to open the front door when you try and leave, because I'm about to try and, you know, blow the place up, which I'm given a very generous 5 minutes to do, despite the fact the front door is literally right here. Put my regular buckshot back on, though. Reyna can keep her laser bullets for now because she'll actually use them in a way that's advantageous to me. This is mostly a happy coincidence. Yeah, that was the front door. We've left the exploding building with 4 minutes and 45 seconds to spare. And now we move on to the... What mansion is this? Does this count as a mansion? It's more like a complex, really. Mansion? I think this is the one Reina goes to before you arrive, so it doesn't get added to the total. I think this is still... We're still on 6 here.
6 mansions, 1 complex.
But the 7th mansion is close at hand. Every single zoom out there is an individual cutscene that has to be skipped manually by pressing start and B. All of them. Every single individual, like, camera pan there counts. They're all individual cutscenes. That amuses me. It's a very small thing. I'm taking out these enemies myself rather than letting Reina handle it with her laser pen, because when I let her try, she shoots me with it. Reina got hit again. That's fine. She's doing fine on health. Mostly. And now we enter... We're about to enter what the game calls the Ark. It's the Poop Water Gundam. So the basic premise of this game now, as the full picture is revealed, is that a mad scientist dude is trying to build a Gundam to annihilate all of humanity because his sister got sick when she drank dirty water. The sick sister is also part of the power source for the giant Gundam. This is why we needed her pendant. Are you following? Are we all on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic, video game trope.
It's a story about environmentalism. It really is about something. Anyway, there's a giant baby face here. It screams. When it screams, it hits both you and Reina, regardless of where you are currently standing. Ooh, I got a critical miss. That's a thing that can happen in this game. One of this game's many inspired ideas is that you can get critical hits, and I was paused and moving at the same time. Right, I do not trust Reina's health. That's too low. Position. Heal yourself. There we go. Moving on. I did not trust... Reina's gonna get bit here by that dude, and I did not trust her to survive that blow. I think I was right. I think she would have died if I didn't. It's fine to play it safe. You are on hotfix. Because if you die, this is like a game that kicks you to the title screen. It's like one of those. There's another baby face. It's here again. It screams. You're always going to get screamed at least once, even if you do the pause abuse. Refilling Reina's laser pen, because we're about to fight another one of these dudes. I didn't equip my own bullets. I'm very silly. Yes, here's another guy. Wow, Reina's doing lots of damage. Get him, Reina. Yes. Oh, I'm paused and moving. Weird. Don't do that. Disruptive. Reina's doing good work right now with all this damage. She's not usually this cooperative. It's going well. Right, now there's missiles being fired at the Poop Water Gundam. We have 6 minutes. The time limits only get larger, but the threat only gets more trivial to dispatch, as this one can be dealt with by pressing a button in the same room. We finished that with 5 minutes and 52 seconds to spare, only taking 8 seconds off the clock. They give you a lot of time to figure these out. And then the AI Morris computer thing gets deleted. Kay's very upset about this. He cares a lot about his computer. This computer that he met like 5 minutes ago. Anyway, power has been disabled, and now meet the final boss of the game. It's this rock dude. It's just here. This isn't, there's no explanation for this, it's just here. Hello, rock dude. How you doing? I'm trying to open the menu and being denied access to the menu due to a funny bug that happens with this game sometimes where it doesn't work.
Hate
I'm
those
now
bugs.
shooting it. It's got like 1 hit point. Come on, man. There we go. Damn, that ammo routing came in so fine. I still have an extra buckshot left. Anyway, we turned the power back on by using the pyramid of power. I don't know why there's a pyramid there and why it restores power to the building. It's just, there's just a floating triangle there. I don't know. I don't know. Even if you do, even if you are following the plot of this, some things are just there. That was the final boss. Now we just need to stop the Poop Water Gundam for good, which we're going to do with the power of music. Time is actually coming up in a moment. This is the only time where the time limit's actually kind of tight if you don't figure out what you're supposed to do. You have to talk to this guy twice, and he tells you, oh, we can wake her up with the music from the pendant. Then you use it from the pendant. That's time. That's the game. That took me 4 seconds.
Time was tight, huh?
I mean, I nearly lost the first time I played it, because it's not clear that you have to poke every object in the room and talk to the guy twice for some reason before you use it. Yes, we wake up the sleeping Christie from her pod with her pendant music thing, and this, like, aborts the launch of the Poop Water Gundam. But then the evil scientist dude tries to use it anyway. I'm gonna skip this part of the cutscene, because it's very loud and makes an annoying noise. But then the evil scientist dude tries to fire the Gundam anyway. It fails, and it shocks him really hard in the head, and the result of that is that he mentally regresses to the age of a 9-year-old. I'm not making that up. That's the plot. That's a real thing that happens. That's the real ending of this game. Unfortunately, this game's cutscenes are all in Japanese and not subtitled. Unless, I mean, if you play the English fan translation, there's English subtitles baked into them. But this game had no official English release, so... But that's Seven Mansions. It's a very unusual game. It's every survival horror game plot happening at the same time, is how I describe it.
Yep, I mean, I think everyone can tell exactly why it was featured on Awfully Silly.
It's quite a piece of work. There he is. There's our now mentally 9-year-old guy. He's, I don't know, he talks about like wanting to play and stuff.
Yeah, you know, classic 9-year-olds.
It's weird. It's real weird.
Yeah.
It kind of freaks me out because everyone thinks this is fine and dandy in the game's plot. Like, the two main characters talk to this guy who they have, like, ruined his life, basically, and they go, ha, that's funny. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I guess this is just fine.
Now we enjoy some cool early 2000s soft jazz, question mark?
Yeah, soft jazz. While we enjoy
that's Seven Mansions.
Yeah. Anything else you want to plug or, you know, steer the people towards while we listen to this soft jazz?
Yes, actually, if you want to play this game yourself, I've been saying it, there is an English fan translation that you can get. It was translated by a group called 8 Mansions, funnily enough. The only person I know who personally worked on it is a user called Arcane Aria, who did also set up the speedrun leaderboard for this game, so they're very dedicated to the pursuit of 7 mansions.
Someone has
to. Good on them. I respect it. I wouldn't have picked this game. I would not have picked this game up as a run if the fan translation did not exist. You know, thank you very much for your hard work in unearthing these weird things from the depths of obscurity where they would otherwise not be played by anyone besides Japanese gamers. It's a thankless job, but I'm glad someone translated a game like this. Like, who would?
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad somebody did it so we could all enjoy it here on Awfully Silly. And if you enjoyed Punchy particularly, good news for you is that with AGDQ coming around the corner, I believe Punchy has a run in there.
Yes, I'm going to be running Chicory, A Colorful Tale in the next GDQ, which is absolutely nothing like this game at all, in that Chicory is actually a very good story, well told.
Yes, so if you want to see
it's a game about a painting dog.
Yes. if you want to see an actual good game with good story, yeah, go ahead and check that out. But for everyone else out there, thank you so much, Punchy, for this gem of a run, of course. And
thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. For anyone else out there, we're gonna take a quick stretch break. You know, go ahead, get your poop water, get anything you might need, stretch out those limbs, and we will be back here shortly.
Enjoy the next run.
All right, and welcome back to this awfully spooky edition of Awfully Silly. I particularly enjoyed Seven Mansions, and the next game that we have coming up is also really, really good. You know, in quotes, depending on how you like it. But this one I think is actually, you know, people are pretty well received with this one. A few announcements before we get started, though. After this one, you can stay tuned for That's Never Happened Before, which will be showing off a variety of glitches and a link to the past. You know, a lot of really fun glitches in there. Also, tomorrow, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, is Aimbot, which has a variety of first-person shooter speedruns. So you're going to want to definitely check out both of those. Also wanted to highlight, if you are enjoying Awfully Silly as a show, this show premieres every other Monday with Team Velocity at Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you are counting the weeks ahead, you will notice that the next time the show would be premiering would be during AGDQ. So we will not be premiering obviously during AGDQ, so we'll be taking a little bit of a break, and we'll be back on January 24th with our next episode of this one. But for now, I think it's just about time we have to dive into Kudelka. I just am so excited for this run. Very excited to be having Miss Scarlett Tanager show it off for us. So go ahead and take it away, Miss Scarlett.
So hello, yes, I am Miss Scarlett Tanager, and I will be playing Kudelka. For those who don't know, this game is one of those PS1 games that attempted to merge survival horror with RPG, so it's got a little bit of Resident Evil and a little bit of Final Fantasy. It's strange. If you've ever played Shadow Hearts, this is technically the game that came before that, and if you see behind me, I have bunnies. Don't mind them. They are just going to chill. And we will get started. Now, before I hit New Game, I'm going to go into the configuration menu, because unlike most games of this era, this game actually has almost full button remapping. And the buttons that it has on default are kind of awful, in my opinion, so before I ever start a run, I always switch it so it looks like this, just because it's easier for me. Now, sorry. Little nervous. Okay, so we are going to be playing as Kudelka, the name of the game, who is trying to infiltrate a monastery in Wales called the Nemeton Monastery. And we just skipped a cutscene that explained some of that and went straight into a boss fight. Mini boss fight, I'll call it that. So this game sort of has a little bit of Final Fantasy Tactics going on, with a grid-based system that you can walk around in during the combat. And each turn you can take one action and one movement. For most of the game, we're not going to be doing any movement at all, because that's slow and that takes time. So unless something goes wrong, with a couple exceptions, I shouldn't actually be doing any movement. And there's the first fight. Now you end up having 3 characters, and you get them all very quickly, and they end up being your party for the entire game, and I like to refer to them lovingly as the dysfunctional family. Because if you've ever seen this game or watched any of the cutscenes, all of your party members kind of hate each other for most of the game, and they bicker like an old married couple. And the person that we just got is Edward Plunkett, who is my personal favorite character because he is equal parts Wild West cowboy and equal parts not that bright. Now, one thing that Kudelka has that a lot of games don't have is it has 2 different types of save points. It has both temporary and permanent save points. The permanent save points refill all of your health, and as you can see here, sometimes Kudelka decides she just doesn't want to go downstairs. But it also has a lot more temporary save points, and that becomes very interesting for something that you will never see during a speedrun. But if you save at very specific times, down to the second, you get items. I don't know how that works, but if you were to save the game at 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 11 seconds exactly, you'll get an item. If you save it at 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 22 seconds, you'll get an item. It just appears in your inventory when you load the game next. Now, we just came across a lovely old couple who are the caretakers of this monastery. And what Kadelka knows, but poor Edward doesn't, is that they just poisoned Edward with the food that they gave him. Kadelka didn't have any food because she's smarter than that. But don't worry about it, he's fine. It's just a mild case of severe food poisoning with probably rat poison or something. So one thing that can make this game a little bit difficult to run is the sheer RNG. Because with a lot of RPG games, you'll have your regular RNG from random battles like I just got into. But the downside is everything in this game is randomized, just about. You have random battles, but all of the equipment, all of the weapons, they also have random effects, random skill bonuses that they give you, and random strengths. And also random elements that they can have. Which means that right here is the biggest reset point in the game, generally, in my opinion. Because you pick up 2 items here. Come on, Kadelka. There we go. You pick up the hammer and you pick up the pipe. Now, depending on the elemental attributes of these, you might have to reset the game. Not necessarily because... Oh, yep. See, if either of these weapons are light, vital, or mystic, it's usually a reset. Because if they are, it's going to hamstring you and could lead to a game over later. Thankfully, I prepared for this eventuality. So at this point, I am going to reset the console. Now, if I was on my own stream and this wasn't a marathon where I'm showcasing the game, I would completely reset here. Instead of that, I have a backup save that actually has elemental attributes on those weapons that are correct. It sucks, but at least it is early in the game and not later. And thankfully, you only have to worry about most of the RNG parts of this game early on, because it stops being as much of a thing later. Okay. Now let's see if my memory card actually decides to read, because it didn't earlier. Hey! Okay. Yes, this game definitely has a bit of an early game reset problem. I think the longest I've gone with having to reset at that early game moment is an hour and a half, I think. It was about an hour and a half, and that part only comes about 5 minutes into the run. So I loaded my save at a temporary save point that was over there. It's the closest one to where I was at, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of running to get back to where we were. Come on, Cody. Hey, she's actually behaving for once. A lot of the time, she just decides not to go upstairs, and I end up running into stairs for about 4 or 5 seconds before she decides to actually use them. There we go. Okay, now we're back where we were. So, in this backup save, I have a fire hammer and I have an air pipe. Not ideal, but it works. Okay. And the next thing you have to do is you have to put your characters in a specific formation, mostly because it just shaves off a little bit of time in the cutscene that's coming up. Or, not the cutscene, the boss fight that's coming up. There we go. I should have flipped those 2, but oh well, too late, already doing it, let's go on. Okay, there's a suspicious priestly man sitting on the ground there, and we just got attacked by a boss. Before I put the RNG of the items is already set at this point. The RNG of the... I'm not sure if the RNG of the items can be manipulated at all. As far as I know, they can't be. This is one of the few times in the game where you'll actually see me use the move command during a fight, because you want to get right up in this guy's grill. Now, if I had actually paid attention, I would have swapped the position of these 2 characters, but it's too late for that, it's fine. Air pipe. Yes. One thing that also can be randomized in this game is the weapons can have randomized elements, but sometimes they have randomized status effects as well. And sometimes you'll get a poison effect on the weapon, which kind of can be helpful in some scenarios. But generally, it's the elemental attributes that are important, especially for not necessarily this fight, but the fight after it. And boss fight done. And the reason that went so fast is because I used magic with Kedelka to cast fire, because this is a Final Fantasy game crossed with Resident Evil, and because I had a fire pipe. Now, this is the level up system. It is strange. You don't normally see this sort of level up system in an RPG of this era. Because, let's see if I can remember exactly how I have to level. Because there's a very specific way they need to level up the characters in the beginning of the game in order to help you out later. And yes, I still have to use a cheat sheet for this game because of that. Okay. The characters are leveled up, and now we get to go look at this body. And this body is the third member of our trio, James O'Flaherty. He is a priest, and he is, let's just say he's an interesting character. If you ever have an interest in playing this game, I recommend it just for the cutscenes alone. They have some of the best cutscenes in video game history, and that's not me being facetious. They are actually very well voice acted and completely mocapped, which you don't see very often for a PlayStation game. You also have resistant to magic and also your own healing. That is correct. The attributes in this game are sort of mirrored of each other. There is the 3 magical ones and the 3 physical ones. Piety is the equivalent of magical defense. But the problem is it also makes you resistant to healing. So for the most part, you don't actually get piety in this game. Oh, I actually forgot to move James. Oops. Now, this is one of the only times that you, besides one other time where you'll actually want to fight the random battles, because you want to get James leveled up by 1 before the next boss fights, or you're going to have a hard time. Okay, James, let's do the thing that I was supposed to do in the inventory and completely forgot to do. Oh. There we go. And yes, this game also has ammunition, which can be annoying. They level up. Ooh, a club! So everything being randomized in this game, you can either end up having a very, very great run, or you can end up struggling the entire time if you get bad RNG on all of the stats of your weapons and armor. Now, let's actually do what I was supposed to do. Okay. Kedelka, you need to go over here. You go up. You go over side. There we go. Thankfully, you don't have to mess around with the formations very much in this game. You only have to do it 2 or 3 times. Kedelka just has a gun. She'll only have a gun for a little while. Though, if you ever play this game casually, just so you know, you can rename every single item, every single weapon, and every single piece of armor to whatever you want. Not including some of the storyline key items. Those you can't rename. But you can rename a potion to Hamburger if you wanted, and every potion you pick up from that moment on will be called Hamburger.
Great, now I'm hungry.
I actually just had a veggie burger just before the stream.
Actually, for real, I did have cheeseburgers for dinner.
Okay, so this enemy is pretty interesting. There is one other moment where you have to do a little bit of grinding, just so you can get Kedelka's HP above 800 for a very specific part that happens on disc 3. Yes, that happens at the beginning of disc 3. So this enemy can drop... Oh, I didn't. Okay. This enemy in his upgraded version can drop an item called Chainmail, and I can't remember, 2 different types of a Chainmail-esque item. And that helps you not have to grind, because theoretically you can skip the grind section that you have that you need to do at one point, which saves 5 to 10 minutes. But it all depends on whether or not... James didn't level up, did he? James, did you level up? You didn't. Ah! Okay, that was bad RNG. So we just get to sit here for a second and run into a wall. Because you want to have James at level 2, or you're going to have a hard time. That's what grinding in Kadalka looks like. Running into a wall. I think that's the first time I have ever had James not level up after 2 fights. But I guess that's probably because marathon milk.
Yep, that's probably exactly why.
You know, the famous "that's never happened before."
Speaking of, right after this, "That's Never Happened Before" is going to be up and on with a Link to the Past, so feel free to watch that.
That was unintentional.
I'm a professional segwayer, so.
Ah, so that's what you're here for.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Now, one thing that is a little bit dangerous with the fact that I'm having to... Are you gonna... Okay. With the fact that I'm having to do 3 fights instead of 2 is that Kadalka has weapon degradation. And just like everything else in this game, the durability of weapons is randomized. Sort of. So if either James or Edward's weapons broke during this fight, it would make the boss fight much harder. Thankfully, I accidentally picked up that club earlier, so it wouldn't necessarily be a complete run killer. Ooh, I got whiskey. Whiskey is the equivalent of a Phoenix Down in this game. It can be very helpful. Not as helpful as a Panacea, and we are in a boss fight. There is no warning in this game. You just get a little text pop up that says, "You got attacked!" Alright, so these 3 are your classic RPG, Final Fantasy-esque. One of them's resistant to fire, one of them's resistant to earth, one of them's resistant to fire, and they all have elemental weaknesses. Which is the reason why you have to be careful about what the elemental attributes of the items that you get are. This is going to be the only use of Fortify. Which one do I use? I've done this before, I swear. Vitality, that's what it was. This is going to be the only usage of Fortify Vitality and one of 2 usages of the Fortify spells in the entire speedrun. Can weapons be repaired? They cannot. When they are broken, they are broken. Okay, which one is weak to? The fire is blue, so I want to keep it first. Oh. Okay. I guess I got a really powerful hammer. I've never one-shot him before. I'll put you over here. You died in combat, just have some whiskey? This is true. So one little bit of menuing that can make the game more difficult on accident is it is faster to hit triangle and attempt to escape than it is to actually hit down and try to do the wait command. That has caused me to lose runs before when I have accidentally run away from one of the couple random encounters you actually want to get. So sometimes muscle memory can completely screw you over. Okay, that was less than ideal. So when Kadalka gets silenced, if you manage to, through the random fights, get a Panacea, and I did not, so we just get to deal with it. which means this fight is now going to take a couple minutes longer, and that's the reason why my estimate is 2 hours and 30 minutes instead of 2 hours or less.
We love a nice, safe estimate.
Yeah. You definitely need that for Kadelka. Oh, you are not close enough. I did not move you close enough. Okay. The, world record for this game is 1 hour and 32 minutes and 58 seconds by a user called Dylaneka, and who is the person who also did the guide that I used to help myself to remember some of the RNG and the little bits and bobs for this game. And that's about 1 hour off from my estimate, and there is a very good reason for that. This game can either be kind or it can be very, very punishing. There is no middle ground. But yes, I will grant you it has some of the best fight music in the history of video games, in my opinion. Well, that was not very nice of you. I need to hit that guy with my hammer. Also, one thing that to keep in mind about this game is sometimes you have to actually move a character if they're using a ranged weapon, because you can't shoot through your allies. There's no friendly fire, but you can't shoot projectiles through your enemy or through your allies. So you actually have to move around your allies sometimes. Yes, I'm aware I can't escape, game. It's just faster to try to escape. You can attack from here. Yeah. The downside of not being able to cast Vitality twice on this guy is the fight's gonna take longer because he has more HP. That's what the point of casting the Fortify spells on enemies is. It causes their... It's an anti-Fortify if you cast it on an enemy. So it reduces his HP. But since I can't do that... Oh, I guess I could now. Because silence only lasts maybe 5 to 10 rounds, depending on RNG. Kadelka not a spellcaster? Kadelka is a spellcaster. It's just she only has so much MP this early in the game. Later, it's not an issue, but in the beginning of the game, it very much is an issue. Also, she got silenced because I got bad RNG. Kadelka got silenced again, because of course. This is true. The Kadelka composer, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but yes, he did compose Secret of Mana. And I think something else, but I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. Okay. So from this fight, you'll always get a Tabar, a ring, and another weapon. But you always equip the ring on Kadelka, and you equip the dirk that I got from behind the painting earlier. Now, Kadelka is almost OP. And I say almost because it's going to take a couple more items for her to get truly OP, but by the end of this game, Kadelka will turn into an absolute glass cannon. Which, because of the grid system that the game has, as long as you have Edward in front of Kadelka, and as long as Edward does not go down, an enemy cannot get behind Edward to attack Kadelka physically. And because of the fact that her stats will eventually be high enough that nothing can really kill her with magic, as long as you keep Edward up, then Kadelka's immortal, and you can just mow down everything in this game in just a few hits. With one very important exception later on. Alright, so this fight's a little bit interesting. Instead of... there we go. So this fight can either take approximately 1 to 2 minutes, or it can take you about 6 or 7. All based on whether or not Kadelka gets silenced by the attack that the enemy is readying right now. So let's see if I get lucky. All right. Yes, okay. Kadelka did not get silenced by that attack, which means that I can simply use a tornado again, and that should kill the boss. If it doesn't, I can smack her with Edward's hammer, and then the enemy will be gone. But... and... oh! Did not kill her! Darn it. Okay. And that is entirely based off of the RNG of the items that Kadelka has, so that dirk and that ring. If they don't have high enough stats, then that happens. But if they do have high enough stats, then you can take it out in 1 hit. Or 2 hits. Got another ring, and we always want to put the equipment accessories on Kadelka if we can, because we really want her to be overpowered, because when do you not want to have your characters being overpowered? Come on, Kadelka. Okay, sometimes she decides she just doesn't want to run. So at this point in the story, our 3 heroes are just running around trying to figure out what's going on in this mansion. They're all there for different reasons. Some of them, like Edward, is just fame and glory and because he feels like it. Okay. This is something that I have screwed up on before. I actually, at the area where I had that fight against the mummy bride, I was supposed to then look at the chest again because there's a rope in there that I need for this section. So I did screw that up a little there. Thankfully, you don't actually get in too many random battles. So this may be a JRPG adjacent game, but the speedrun for it is, again, can be beaten in 2 hours. Even though it's across 4 discs. I don't know if this game has a digital version, but it absolutely should, because I adore this game. And for most people, digital would be the only way that you would play it, because this game costs a pretty penny nowadays, sadly. Which apparently is what I am going to be known for playing at GDQ Twitch streams, is playing the rare games that nobody else owns because they're way too expensive.
It's a good thing to be known for.
Well, between this and Kuon and the games nobody else has played. This game have any major glitches? Not that have been discovered. I cannot think of a single glitch that has been found in this game. Not... Yeah, I cannot think of one. It would be interesting if there was one, but as far as I know, there is not. But with a game like this, you don't really need glitches so much, because the game can be so easily broken if you know the mechanics. So that was that I picked up just then, was a piece of glass that there's 4 or 5 of them, and you have to make sure you pick them up, because if you don't, it's going to be a headache trying to get back here for them later in the game. You won't need them until the end of Disc 2. But they're still a headache to get if you don't pick them up as you go. Okay, so for this fight, you have a very specific sequence of events in order to get through the fight as quickly as possible while taking the least amount of damage. So the first thing that we do is we want to cast Fire on James. Now these are doppelgangers of our 3 wonderful characters. And you want to place your characters in a specific way in order to get the enemy to also sit in a specific way. I must have high agility right now. That's very nice. Didn't complain about the price he's selling it for. Yeah. My copy of Kuon cost me almost $600, and that was last year-ish. Now it goes for much more than that. Which is mildly terrifying. Okay. That was bad RNG. You actually don't want to push Kadelka back there, because it can cause a little bit of breaking in the RNG. Which, I mean, it's fine. It just means that the fight may take a little bit longer, because you have to move around in a way that you weren't expecting. Why is this game so expensive? I have no idea. I wish I knew. This game, Kadelka, is not that much cheaper than Kuon. Though I tend to make people jealous, and I tell them that I did not pay a dime for this game. Okay.
Lucky, lucky, lucky.
Yeah. Back in high school, I borrowed this game from my friend Gina. And by borrowed, I mean I borrowed it and promptly forgot it existed in my room for approximately 10 years. So yeah, technically I didn't pay a dime for this. Ever no game's worth $600? I would generally agree with that. I have quite a few games that are now worth that much, but I really wish this game had a digital copy, because it is definitely a great game to play, and I wish more people got the chance to play it. That is also true. Kadelka had a very low production run, but at the same time, all we have to do is put Kadelka and Kuon on digital stores. Problem solved. All right. James was supposed to level up there, but he didn't. Again, some more of the RNG just seeking to mess with me. So I'm going to save here just for safety. because we are already at the end of Disc 1. Okay. And we are not allowed to have cutscenes, so we have to skip that. Most of the cutscenes in this game, at least for the first roughly half of the game, are just the three main characters arguing with each other. It's very well done arguing. It's very well animated arguing, but it's mostly just them arguing about
Did you find
everything under the sun. Which happens when you have three party members who actively hate each other for the first half of the game. All right, now we are on Disc 2. If it loads, okay. So we fell down a pit, like you do. Except, unlike you usually do, we fell down into a pit full of dead bodies. Because, lo and behold, this monastery that we find ourselves trapped in was built on top of a prison. So now we are in the prison section. Sort of. We go through some of the prison towards the end of the game, but most of the prison section we go through here. Is this game a safe run? Yes and no. It can be made safe, and I'm running it safe, but you have to take a lot more risks if you want to get good times because of the RNG in this game. Okay, where is it? There we go. They need to pick up these two items here. Take a look at the dead bodies in order to trigger a cutscene. That cutscene doesn't appear unless you look at the dead bodies and pick up those items. I can't remember if you have to pick up both of them. I just generally do, just for safety reasons. So we just had a cutscene with a little ghost girl who is an evil little ghost girl because this is a game made in Japan and they always are. And she has this ghost on us. Now, thankfully, oh, Kadelka only has 1 HP. Did she die? When did that happen? Okay, either way, it doesn't matter. We're just gonna cast this on him. And that's a bar we got earlier. We want to equip that on Edward. And just because safety reasons, I'm gonna throw this high potion on Kadelka because I didn't notice she was at 1 HP. I don't know how that happened because whenever you level up, your characters are supposed to get full health refresh. But for some reason, Kadelka was at 1 HP there. I honestly don't know what happened. I'm assuming the game bugged out.
Game is just throwing everything at us this time.
Yeah, that's what Kadelka does. Welcome to Kadelka. Kadelka actively hates you. Yeah, because, yet again, that's never happened before. Well, that was entirely useless. You took away strength from the characters that never use strength. Good job, Mr. Enemy. So from this point on, most of the game is going to be setting up Kadelka to spam magic. That's what it be. I think we're at the point where he can't do any damage. Yeah, at least not much. Okay. Normally, I don't attack with him, but Kadelka is not yet powerful enough to be able to take him out in 2 hits like normal. All right. Now, we want to keep Kadelka specifically, we want to keep her agility up as high as possible for most of the game, just because that lets her do more things quickly. And because she is our glass cannon, who will be doing the majority of the damage in this playthrough, just pump her full of agility until we feel otherwise. Alright, so you always want to pick up this mace, specifically so you can throw it at Kadelka. because it will always be more powerful than that Dirk. At least in terms of magic. So this should be the last formation that we have to do in the entire game. And then we're good. You'll never see the formation screen for the rest of the playthrough. Because this is the point of the game where we just stick everybody behind Edward, throw all of Edward's level up points into Vitality so he turns into a brick wall, and win. Also, one of the reasons why except for one specific moment, you don't really do any grinding in this game, even though it's an RPG, is the enemies don't really give out hardly any experience. They give out a very, very small amount, but compared to the just buckets of XP you get from the boss fights, it's pretty negligible. The only reason there really is a one grind spot coming up after the next boss fight is not because of giving levels to the characters, because you're trying to get a chainmail for Kadelka for the one portion of the game where she is entirely alone, which is the scariest portion of this run. What you are watching is what happens when Resident Evil decides to have a baby with Final Fantasy. Oh, I didn't mean to actually wait on him. Okay, this is going to be the second time in the game where you actually use the Fortify spells. You're going to fortify Kadelka's intelligence twice. And the reason you're doing that is because pretty much no matter what you do, Kadelka's not going to be powerful enough to be able to two-shot this enemy. But by doing this, as soon as both of those spells go off on Kadelka, she will be powerful enough to, hopefully, two-shot this enemy. Oh, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. The one thing that Edward's not good at and won't be good at for the entire playthrough is actually taking damage to, or taking magic damage to the face. He can take every other type of damage pretty well, but not magic. Okay, I want to use Megalith. Fortify Pi? Pi is my favorite named ability that you don't do anything with the entire speedrun. Piety is the equivalent of magic defense. Okay. So you have strength, vitality, and I am not remembering the third one. But vitality is essentially physical defense, piety is magic defense. It's very simplified because they all have their fingers in a whole bunch of different game mechanics, but that's the best way to think of it. Okay, just for safety reasons, I'll let James actually do something for once. For most of the game, James really isn't helpful. Sadly, cakeity is not a thing. This game is in love with pie. No cakes, only pie. Which I'm okay with because I don't really like cake that much. I don't know about you, but I don't really like cake that much. Controversial opinions.
Yeah, I'm not huge on cake or pie, to be honest. I'm like a cookies ice cream guy, you know what I mean?
I like vegan cheesecake because I'm a dirty, filthy vegan.
Cheesecake is pretty good. Cheesecake is pretty good.
Cheesecake, it's like a pie crossed with a cake. It's both. The best of both worlds. Okay, I'm gonna do another safety save here real quick. Now, normally I go through this entire playthrough without doing a single save, which can be scary for a game like this, but only really at a couple points, because this speedrun is relatively safe, especially because the combat is not in like an ATB system like you'd find in Final Fantasy IX or Final Fantasy VIII. So it can be relatively safe. With, again, the exception of 2 moments that I can think of, where it gets a little dicey. Alright, now we are having another cutscene where all of our characters decide to have a shouting match at each other. They're very good at that. I joke, but I'm also being dead serious that most of the cutscene in this game are the characters fighting each other. Mostly just James fighting with the other 2, but... Okay, we want to make sure we pick up those bow guns because we will need them for the upcoming fight. Bunny? Where? Oh, you mean behind me? Yeah, they're chilling. Their names are Garrus and Tally, if you're wondering. They are named after exactly who you think they are. See, and sometimes the game just decides I'm not allowed to run away from fights. In which case you get stuck for a hot minute. Now, how many random battles you get into and how easily it is to run away from them is almost entirely dependent on the luck stat. And because you never upgrade the luck stat during the speedrun, it's pretty much entirely based off of the random equipment attributes, how many random battles you get into during the speedrun. Again, this game has a lot of RNG in it. Now, just for safety, I'm going to pick this up. I almost never do, but because of one specific thing later, I'm going to. Okay. So this is the room of the grind. This will be the one place in the game where you actually grind random encounters in order to try to get specifically a chainmail for Koudelka. Because for the section coming up, you need to make sure that Koudelka has 800 HP or you're gonna have a bad time. I have managed it with her having 650 HP, but that was with some clenching. I'm gonna be spending probably about 5 to 10 minutes just doing some grinding here. So if anybody has any questions about this game, please let me know. Okay, so for this guy... Now this is the part where I've gotten myself in trouble before accidentally running away from encounters because of muscle memory. Now, I'm doing this on purpose. There is specific strats for the random fights that you get into here. For this one specifically, you kill the ghost that I killed and then you run away. Because there's not really much point in killing the other ghost because you don't really get much for it. Now, the upside of having to do this grind in order to try and get a chainmail or get some more equipment is you end up getting leveled up. So this is the part of the game that makes the run through safe if you're doing the speedrun casually or if you're doing it to try and practice. Which company developed this game? SNK. Published by Infogrames. Okay, this is the fight you want to get, because that armor, just like the one earlier that I talked about, that armor can drop chainmail. It is totally RNG, whether or not he does, but if he drops a chainmail, then we're pretty much good. If he doesn't, we're grinding. Okay, so for this guy, is that a headless ghoul? That's a half body. So for him, tornado. And yes, I have to keep a list to memorize some of the elemental weaknesses. Oh, I almost messed up. To keep track of some of the elemental weaknesses, because there's a lot of them. Saknoth. Yeah, Saknoth is the people who made this game, you're right. I was looking at the wrong part of the manual. Saknoth developed it, it was published by SNK and Infogrames. Which, by the way, one of the ultimate weapons that you also will not see during a speedrun is the Saknoth, which is a sword. Is this game on PC at all? Sadly, no, it is only on PlayStation. Though, if you know the Shadow Hearts games, this is the direct predecessor to Shadow Hearts. In fact, Kadelka, our lovely little glass cannon, appears in Shadow Hearts as a pretty important side character. All right, are we gonna get good RNG? Good RNG? We'll see. Ah! Work with me, game. Work with me, game. The game must know that I'm doing this as a marathon game. Okay, let's try this again. I tend to do this little grind session slower in terms of menuing, just to make sure that I don't get the muscle memory problem that I've got in the past and accidentally run away from the fights. A lot of some of the fights in this game is just going to be you either waiting with Edward or waiting with James, because for most of the game you're just trying to get out this turn. Edward spends the entire game being a glass cannon, or not a glass cannon, being the protection for the glass cannon. And James is just mostly useless until the end of the game. Now, one thing that's interesting is theoretically, you could turn Edward into a mage. You could make Kadelka a fighter. The game lets you do that. It's just their beginning stats definitely have them down set paths, but you can change those by just pouring their, I'm just gonna put that into vitality just in case. By changing their stats. Second time, okay. Okay, game. The game just does not want to give me a chainmail, do they? And this is the reason why my estimate is so high. The speedrunning gets the canon ending. So there are two endings to this game. There is the canon ending and the good ending. If I don't get a chainmail from this fight, I'm going to be very disappointed, because the RNG for getting a chainmail, the chance of getting a chainmail is actually pretty high. So if I don't get it 3 times in a row, that's really, really bad RNG. Now, the only difference between whether or not you get the canon ending or you get the good ending is whether or not you defeat the final fight. The speedrun does not defeat the final boss, because that takes time and that's slow, so we don't do that. But there is a speedrun category for the good ending, if I recall. I think it's the all bosses one. Come on, RNG. Please. Thankfully, this is the only time that you have to do this during the run, so. Ah!
Come on.
Marathon luck. There is a backup strat if you can't get chainmail. I already did part of the backup strat just in case, but you need to have Kadelka's HP be at 800, and you can just do that by you can do that by just giving her some level ups and just pouring that into Vitality. It's not ideal because it can make her a little bit weaker with her magic later on. But if it's what you gotta do because the game's being mean to you, it's what you gotta do because the game's being mean to you. Which the game's being mean to me. I can't remember off the top of my head what the average drop rate for the chainmail is from this enemy, but it's not rare. I've had runs where from 2 fights I got 2 chainmails in a row. It's not an uncommon drop. The game just doesn't like me today. But again, thankfully I have a backup. May RNGesus be with you. It's never with me. You just soft lock? No, thankfully it's not a soft lock if I don't get a chainmail. It just makes later on a pain in the butt. Oh yes, there is also a very infamous ending to this game. It's ending with quotation marks because technically it gives you a game over screen, but it does cause all of our party members to get Indiana Jones'd, as in face melty. So it is kind of fun to watch because it's an FMV, but okay. Come on. Yes! I was thinking, it's like, should I put all of those points into intelligence or should I put it into vitality? But no, we got a chainmail.
Success.
Okay. 4th time is the charm. Oh my god, that is the worst RNG I've had in ages. Okay, the only reason we do that is so we can have Kadelka have a bunch of HP. Now we can go onwards. Literally, the only purpose of that grind session is to make sure that Kadelka has a bunch of vitality. Okay. Success has been achieved.
All right.
The downside is because I already, just in preparation for possibly having to do my backup, I did put points into vitality on Kadelka, so she's going to be a little bit weaker on her magic, but it should be fine. This is fine. This is fine. I think this is the first time I've had Kadelka have over 1,000 HP during a speed run in, God, months. Okay, one thing to remember to do during this fight is make sure that James has the bowgun equipped, because we are going to soon come to the second most annoying boss fight in this game. The most annoying boss fight definitely goes to the one almost at the end of the game called Apostle, but the one coming up in a minute here, also a pain in the butt. But I'll tell you more about that guy when we get a little bit closer to him. Oh no. Okay, thankfully I got some RNG Panaceas, so we can get rid of that silence on Kadelka, because that is the last thing you want. Okay, he has a bow and arrow already. Okay. This is one of the few times that you actually attack with Edward, with the exception of the boss fight directly coming up. And the only reason I did that is because Kadelka is not powerful enough to be able to two-shot this enemy yet. But you always, with the bowgun weapons, you don't have to do this with the gun as often, but with the bowgun, you have to reload after every single shot with it. It's very powerful, but it's annoying to use. If I recall, the reason why the any percent category does not use... Okay, yeah, he's still not dead. The reason the any percent category does not use the no pendant ending is because the no pendant ending is not an ending, technically. It's a game over. It's a non-standard game over. So the speedrun doesn't use the no pendant ending. Even though it would be something like 15 minutes faster, 10 to 15. Okay, one more safety save. Now, if you're learning the speedrun, you can save at any temporary save or permanent save that you come across, but generally when I was learning the run, I just saved at the permanent save points. Not for any particular reason, it's just annoying to be saving so much. Yes, my personal favorite of the endings is definitely the no pendant ending, but that's almost entirely because the entire party gets just melted. Now, for those who don't know what chat and I are talking about in terms of the no pendant ending, if we actually watch the intro cutscene, you would see that Koudelka dropped a pendant as she was climbing over the walls of the monastery to get inside of it. That pendant only shows up during that one cutscene, and the third to last FMV in the game, so just before the final boss fight. Yet, if you don't grab that pendant at a very specific point in the game, you cannot actually beat the game unless you happen to get a lucky drop from an enemy right at the end of the game. So you have to either get really lucky on RNG, or you have to make sure you pick it up when it shows it to you later in the game. So that can be one really annoying thing about this game, which is a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. Now it's time for the most annoying boss fight in this game. This is against Elias. In the FMV that I just skipped, he dropped a chandelier on us and tried to get us killed. Now he is attacking us. The reason why he is so annoying is he is entirely immune to magic, and guess who the only thing our glass cannon can use is? Magic. Which is rather annoying. Now, he has a very set attack pattern. He will always attack Koudelka, Edward, then James, Koudelka, Edward, James, Koudelka, Edward, James. I think. It's either that or it's Koudelka, James, Edward. I can't remember which. But for this fight, you want to have Koudelka attacking one of the barricades and Edward attacking the other. Because those two barricades that are standing up there, you cannot actually attack the boss as long as those are up. So not only is he immune to magic, he is also immune to attacks until these barricades go away. Because reasons. Yes, theoretically at the end of the game, the pendant can drop from... I think it drops from the black cats in the second to last screen before you get the non-standard game over. Theoretically, it can drop from an enemy if you didn't pick it up earlier. Come on, James. James? Okay. He wasn't behaving. Sounds like Clock Tower with their endings? Not so much, but I can sort of see why you'd think that. Oh wait, why was I skipping Edwards? Okay. Now we're gonna wait for Koudelka's spell to go off in order to take down the other barricade. Which hopefully, because I hit it with James, it should... Oh, there we go. Now we can actually attack the boss. So for the rest of this fight, Koudelka and James are completely useless. Because the only one who can do damage to the enemy, functionally, is Edward. Which is rather annoying because this guy takes about 4 hits to kill. And every other turn with him, you have to reload your gun. on, game. Work with me here. That was 3, I think. Oh. This should be enough. There it goes. Okay. We're back on track now. Now, in the cutscene where the chandelier got dropped on me, I ran past it, and if you guys were paying attention, you saw that I picked something up called Daniel's Arm. That item is an instance of this game's love of throwing items down, not telling you that they're there, and then punishing you if you don't pick them up later. Because if you don't pick up that item, and if you don't know it's there, you cannot get to Disc 4. Or you cannot get further than Disc 4. Which is mildly annoying. So we just talked to that guy, and he's totally just slumped there. He's absolutely fine, chat. He's fine. He's fine. He totally didn't get shot during that cutscene. No, he's fine.
Everything is fine.
Everything is fine.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah, that cutscene is another example of all of the main characters just constantly arguing with each other. And then Edward just decided to shoot the boss, and he's just taking a nap. So now we're all the way back at the beginning of the game. We just did a full circle. How many discs are there? There are 4. The speedrun's only about two-ish hours long, but yes, there is 4 discs. And the reason is that there is 4 discs, despite there being just not that much in terms of length to the game, is pretty interesting, actually. The reason why there's 4 discs is sort of because this game has a lot of FMV sequences, but most of the reason is because this game is entirely voice acted and mocap. So there was no, every animation you see in this game was done by actors. And because of that, it means that they had to use a lot of because remember, this is a PlayStation game. They had to use a lot of disk space just for that. All right, so I just picked up that badge. That is just an accessory that you're going to throw on James later in order to make him actually useful. And I'm going to be picking up these items just for puzzles later. This game has a very Resident Evil style of pick up these puzzles, throw them at doors, and then they're unlocked. So this item here is very important for a speedrun. You don't need it, it's not required, but the mask reduces your encounter rate by half. So the 2 things that really affect your encounter rate and how many random battles you get into are the mask and your luck. So now that I have that, I should get into less random encounters, which is good because you want to run away from all random encounters except for that one section earlier that I was having a hard time getting that chainmail. And if you get into a fight with an enemy called Mars or a black cat. So, cat lovers, you better hope I never get into a random encounter against a black cat, because it will just be a little kitty. And they happen to drop the most powerful mage equipment in the game. So if you come across one, you kind of have to take care of it. But again, because it is random battles, I've only come across it once or twice in all of my run-throughs. Okay, now that I picked up all of those items, we are going to go all the way back to where we had that boss fight against Elias. Oh, wait, no. Actually, I lied. There's one other thing we have to do that I forgot. Almost forgot. We have to go to Elias's hideout to get something first. It was a door that I passed by earlier, but the key that we picked up after the Elias boss fight lets us get into it. Okay, so here's the room we did the grinding earlier. We're summoning the Elder Crimson Head? We are not. That is a Resident Evil thing. Okay. So I used the key that I got from the boss and got into a random fight because this game decided it wanted to have random fights. There we go. Okay. So we needed this for later. And the game will not actually let you leave this room unless you look at this random bit of wall. I don't know why, because it doesn't force you to look at the other half of the puzzle solution, but it won't let you leave the room unless you look at that piece of wall. Apparently it's a very interesting piece of wall. So this little bit of pixels here is an item we have to pick up that it wouldn't let us pick up earlier for some reason. How are you supposed to know that that's there? Reasons. In fact, the game probably wants you to just run around like a chicken with your head cut off until you start clicking on random bits of pixel until you realize there's an item there to pick up. Okay, now we are going in the right direction. Okay, after that little bit of backtracking, when you go through the door by Elias, you'll be able to see why I had to pick up the music box. Now, I know the puzzle solution coming up in this room, but the game actually won't let you do it unless you have the music box and unless you looked at a little bit of random wall. Do I know why? Absolutely not. But the puzzle solution is this. Ah! Okay. If you run on the wrong pixel, it won't activate, and sometimes it won't activate just because it doesn't like you. Mostly because of this diagonal right here. There we go. Okay, here's another one of those shards. We're actually going to be using those pretty soon. Now, for those who know this game, might be wondering whether or not I'm going to be rescuing the ghost named Charlotte. In order to do that, you have to do a little bit of extra stuff to get some letters to give to the poor little ghost girl that you guys didn't see because I skipped that cutscene. Sadly, we will not be doing that because even though it allows you to skip a boss fight, it takes time, and we don't like wasting time here. So, GG, poor ghost girl, we're not going to rescue her because that takes time. Alright, so we watched a cutscene of Kedelka having a migraine. And now we're gonna pick up a little thing. Okay. So those are some of the items that I picked up earlier, just sitting on tables and stuff. And now we're gonna have another boss fight. This boss fight is just like most of the ones in this game. Throw Kedelka at it until it dies. Because she's just that cool. I mean, the game is named after her, so. mention that this game has some very grotesque character designs, enemy designs. So that's 16. Okay, so it's gonna take. So Kadalka got poisoned, but we are not going to actually care about that because the only time that we care if Kadalka gets a status effect is if she gets silenced. She can have poison, it's fine. Now, you guys may like the fight music in this game, but just you wait until we get to some of the final fights. Because for most of the game, there's only really the one battle music. But then we get to the end of the game, and that's the only time, really, that the boss fight music changes. Well, this is fine. Poison, paralysis, this is fine. Oh, good! They silenced Kadalka, great. This is fine. Okay, now I have actually an excuse to heal her. Alright, this should be enough to kill it. Hey! Success.
Woo!
Now, usually that enemy should only take you 2 hits, but it took me 3 hits this time, almost entirely because I'm not getting very good RNG today. Oh well, this is fine. So you pretty much never do anything but Vitality for Edward at this point in the game. Okay. I'll save after this cutscene. So you want to go look in this random corner. The game does not tell you to look there, just wants you to look in this random corner to trigger a cutscene. Come on, game. Okay. So believe it or not, we are getting relatively close to the end of disc 2. It's just gonna, yeah, it's just gonna take me having to run around and put a couple of items away and meet the most amazing character in all of Shadow Hearts and Kadalka history, and then end of the disc.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, just that. So who loves history? Do you love history? I love history. History's fun. So this game very much likes to bring real-world history into the game. So does anybody know the great Roger Bacon? He is a figure from history who is well known, if I remember correctly, as like an inventor and philosopher. He did a lot of stuff. In this game, he is an immortal wizard man who is stick thin and walks around like Gollum. And talks like he's about 50% insane. And we will be meeting him very soon. This is an example of Kidalka just not wanting to go through a doorway. I don't know why. Sometimes she just doesn't like to go through the event triggers. Now, this game may be very good, but some parts of it can be a touch rough. Okay. So the puzzle that's coming up in this next room is one of those listen to the sound, replicate the sound puzzles. And one of the reasons why you needed the music box. I don't know music, so I'm just going to do the solution. Because I happen to just know what it is. Okay, no cutscenes. We don't do cutscenes here, they're slow. Thankfully, this is a PlayStation game that actually lets you skip cutscenes. Including this one. So, the person in the casket there is Roger Bacon. I wish I could show you guys the cutscenes because everything that comes out of that man's mouth is pure gold. But he is currently, as far as the main characters know, a mummy in a coffin who just shouted at them and then went to sleep.
Classic Roger. Classic.
Yeah, classic Roger. Now, if you've ever played Shadow Hearts, and then didn't beat Shadow Hearts, then you may be confused about that Roger Bacon. Now, the only thing I can say about that is go finish Shadow Hearts because it's a great game, and you should see why the Roger Bacon is sort of different in that game. All right, we are almost at the end of Disc 2. I just have to go a couple more screens over. There's no more boss fights, sort of. I'll explain when we get there. Kidalka, please move. Okay. Sometimes Kidalka also decides she just doesn't want to run. Oh, right. I have to go do that. I actually have to finish the puzzle before I can go through the doorway. So all of those glass pieces that I've been picking up from the floor and from various bosses, they go in here. Now the game's going to tell you, hey, there was the little puzzle thing earlier in a box. Are you going to go open that? You should go open that. We're not going to open that. Because that takes time and we are slow. Or we don't want to be slow. Because slow is bad. Because this is a speedrun. Okay. The game won't let you leave the cathedral normally. It forces you to go up to watch an FMV before it lets you turn around and leave. So we're going to do that, and then it will be the end of Disc 2. Oh no, spooky FMV. And we skip that? Because that's slow. Now, our characters are just trying to figure out what's going on in this cathedral, mansion, manor, prison, complex place. Now, as they're going through here, they get attacked by a massive gargoyle, and Kidalka gets separated from her party. She is now alone, and will be alone for, third to half of Disc 3, and we're not gonna fight this guy, we're just gonna run. That's why it's not technically a boss fight. It doesn't even use the boss fight music, I don't think. But yes, we just run away from him because he attacked us and we don't like him. He's also a optional super boss that we can defeat later, but we don't because it's slow. And we are at the end of Disc 2.
All right, awesome. Well, we are going to take this as an opportunity to get a little stretch break going as we get ready for the back half of the game. So feel free, get up, get a snack, get something to drink, whatever it is you need to do, and we will be back here in just a few short minutes with the second half of the game. All right, welcome back everybody to Awfully Silly, the awfully spooky edition, of course. We are going to be continuing on with Kidalka here, so let's get the timer back going in 3, 2, 1, and go.
Stop! So, we are now alone. We no longer have our meat shield that is Edward, which is probably the most scary part of the game. Now, because I managed to actually get a chainmail, it should be fine. So from a bunch of the boss fights that we have come across so far, if you guys have noticed, in the reward screen, I got access to things called like Icon's Crown, Icon's Necklace, Icon's Ring. This entire section is us going and putting those items that we got from those boss fights on all of these statues. Now, if you get good RNG, you can get out of here without getting into a single random encounter. And of course, the second I say that... Of course, the second I say that.
Mm-hmm.
I swear, this game hates me today. It just absolutely hates me. But yes, the thing that can make this entire section scary is not necessarily the fact that you are in random battles with Koudelka, because you just run away from those. The problem is there is a boss fight coming up here, where you will have to do the entire boss fight alone. Now, because I have so much more HP than I normally do as Koudelka, it should be fine. But if you're not careful, you can game over here. Alright, this is going to be the first time that I ever actually use a temporary save during this marathon run. Now, they just work like normal saves. Oh, except you can't actually put them on a normal save slot. You have to put them on their own temporary save slot. They're not actually temporary, if I remember correctly. They can be used and loaded just like normal saves. But they just don't heal you all the way, and you can't use them for getting the special save items. I think that was the last one. I think. Okay, yeah, that was the last one. So, the thing the game never tells you is, hey look, there's a pendant right here. You can entirely miss this pendant. And I might actually equip that pendant on Koudelka right now. You can entirely miss that pendant. If you don't pick up this pendant, you can't finish the game. Which is rather annoying. There we go. Okay. Because you don't necessarily have to go over there a single time, because as soon as you put all of those icons items away, where you're supposed to go is through that grate right there. Which is just, I don't know why they did that. They should have made it some drop from a boss or something if they wanted to make sure that the player had it. But yeah, you literally cannot finish the game unless you have that pendant. You will always get a game over screen. Oh, also, just ignore the guillotine, it's fine. Just ignore the guillotine, it's fine. Hey, look, we found the caretakers. They're fine. Don't worry about them. They're just taking a nap. Yeah, they're just taking a nap. Why do you need the pendant? Because MacGuffin. There's not really any good reason for it. Koudelka sort of explains that the pendant was a gift from her dad or something. From somebody who was important to her, and that it's a magic mystical pendant. That's literally the only reason. There's not really a good reason why you need it. The game could have entirely left it out and it would have been fine. But yes, you will get a game over right before the final bosses of the game if you don't have that pendant. Also, you can save after the point of no return. And after the point of no return, you can't go back and get the pendants. So you have to rely on it dropping from a random encounter, which is a very low % drop. So it can soft lock you in the end of the game if you don't know you need to pick up that pendant. As much as I love this game, that is the one stickler in it. Okay, here is the scary part. Because now, every time you play this game, if you see something is not right on the bottom of the screen, it's a boss fight room. And since Koudelka is alone, this is gonna be fun. Okay. So the only thing that you need to do is spam Tornado on the enemy. But you also need to make sure you keep an eye on the enemy's HP, because if he does this and tries to cast a spell, it's good. If he tries to smack you, it's bad, because Kudelka does not like being hit. She can take magic like a champ, but she can't take a punch to the face. I have lost many a run to this fight specifically. Now, it shouldn't be a problem because I made sure Kudelka had about twice the amount of HP I normally have her at this point, but it can still be a little scary if you are trying to get a good time. Which necessitates you not necessarily getting the chainmail and not having good stats. Oh! Sometimes I fat finger that and I accidentally attack instead. That's what happens when you accidentally button mash when you're not supposed to. Now, when I'm normally speedrunning this, not for a marathon, he can kill me in 2 punches, which is what makes this fight scary, because you have to waste time trying to heal your character and trying to get in damage with one character at the same time. Thankfully, I generally know what I'm doing in this game, and he's gone now. Alrighty. So our point what we're trying to do at the moment is we're just trying to get back to Edward and James. We don't really know where they are. They told us to meet up with them in the library in one of the cutscenes that I skipped, but we don't know where we are, so we just sort of have to take a roundabout circuitous route to get to them. Now, one interesting thing coming up here in a moment is in this version of the game, in the North American release, there is not an item behind the grave that is coming up right about here. So definitely make sure you pick up this doll here or you won't be able to finish the game. But this grave, you need to pray at it, because reasons. But in the PAL version, in the Japanese version, I know it's in the PAL version, I think it's in the Japanese as well. Behind that grave is the ultimate weapon for mages. It's called Daniel's Cross, and us Americans don't get to have it. We just don't get it. Which can make the PAL region theoretically faster, but if I remember correctly, the PAL and Japanese versions, definitely the Japanese version, but possibly the PAL version, are much more difficult in the fight in terms of how much damage the enemies do and how much HP they have. The walk animation is indeed incredible, and that is because it is mocapped, as I have brought up before. Every animation in this game, a real person did it, which I find absolutely fascinating because it's a PlayStation game. I cannot think of another PlayStation game where all of the animation is mocapped. In terms of the, human characters. Including Roger Bacon, which is weird because he runs around like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Alright, we go through this door, cutscene starts, and we have Edward and James back. Which is yay! Alright, this is the beginning of James actually being a useful character. So we are going to equip him with an item we got from a boss fight earlier, the Evil Horn. I don't have anything I can give him here, but we do have 2 extra rings we can give him. So he's not as good as Kudelka at magic, but now he's at least better. Okay. Now we are going to have to backtrack a ways. So I didn't bring it up when I went past it because, to be fair, I actually just forgot. But, see if I get into a fight here. No, okay. There was a door that I passed earlier, way earlier. Those 2 dolls that I picked up, the one next to the grave and the one a little bit earlier, those are the keys to that door. Because there are creepy little ghosts next to that, well, ghosts/mummies next to that door. And if you try to take the key in their hand to open the door, they get mad at you. So you have to give them their dolls so they just let you take the key. I don't know. This game's weird. Game's strange. For a second there, I thought we were going to get into a fight with the black cat because that's the camera angle usually does for that. But yeah, this part of the game is just a lot of really long backtracking. Which hopefully I won't get into a lot of random fights and we can get through it quickly. Yes, we do want a black cat fight. Well, I want a black cat fight. I don't think the chat wants a black cat fight because it involves me killing a kitty.
No, we don't want that. No.
Because it is faster to do so, but on the other hand, it is not something that's very Twitch friendly. Because as I said earlier, there are 2 random fights that even though you run away from most of the random fights in this game, if you get into a fight with a black cat or a Mars enemy, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. Just because it's faster than not doing it. Okay, so this is the little mummy that I passed up earlier. So we talked to the mummy, give the mummies their dolls. Now they're happy and they gave me a key. And this key goes in this room. So earlier when I mentioned that we got into a fight because the little ghost girl decided to throw an enemy at us, we are now on the other side of that wall that we were at during that fight. Which means we are now in the realm of the creepy ghost girl. And because I did not do the little extra bit earlier with those broken glass pieces, we have 2 boss fights now. If you've done that little extra side quest and gotten a couple extra items, you'd only have 1 boss fight. But because we did not do that, we get to have 2. It also gets to be the first time that James actually gets to do something. So yes, we are currently having a boss fight against Furniture. By the way. Furniture is the real horror of this game. 17. I'm gonna be a little quiet here because I'm counting HP. Or I'll just 2-shot him, never mind. This is what I meant by depending on the RNG values of items that you can get absolutely overpowered in this game. Okay. Because usually I have to count HP to figure out who I want to attack, what, and when. But then Kadelka decided she just wanted to do 4,000 points of damage. $4,000. And dead. Okay, I guess I'll just 2-shot both of them. Aight. Alright. So now that that's happened, I will play a little bit of this cutscene just so you can see the creepy ghost girl. That is the creepy ghost girl. Normally, you can save the creepy ghost girl if you do the extra side quest. We did not do that, so instead, we have to fight the creepy ghost girl, except now she looks like something out of Silent Hill. I mean, the game's a little dark, so you can't see it that well, but trust me, she looks like something out of Silent Hill. And this entire boss fight is just spam Geyser. Spam Geyser and skip Edward's turn because he's no longer important in this game.
Poor Edward.
Yeah, he just gets to be a wall. He's literally just a wall to prevent physical attacks against James and Kadelka. He can be a little bit helpful later, but still.
Walls are important. They're the foundation, so still helping in his own way, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
In a way.
In a way. How do you get the bad ending? You get the bad ending by dying to the final boss fight. And I don't want to call it the bad ending because this game's weird. The good ending, where you defeat the final boss, is not the best. It's not the most satisfying ending. It's not a satisfying ending. It's not meant to be a satisfying ending. But the canon ending, the one that actually goes into Shadow Hearts, is the bad ending that comes from dying to the final boss, which is the ending that we will be getting here. But yeah, Charlotte, I've never really seen Charlotte move forward unless you start losing party members. So this is pretty much just spam, 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 and she's done. Mostly because of Kadelka. I'll start putting some mind. So leveling up in this game can be... it's kind of up to you how exactly you level up the characters. For James and Kadelka, you want to put most of their points into intelligence and agility up to a certain point, in which, and after having about 40 agility, you switch to then upgrading their intelligence and their mind, which I could explain why, but that involves a lot of math and I'm lazy. Okay, that and the pendant, okay. So I'm just doing a little bit of inventory management to make sure that I am prepared for the fights coming up. Yeah, okay. All right, now that that's done with, how does the giant monster body appear? Reasons. This game doesn't have any logic. It's an RPG. RPGs don't have logic. Oh, so that disc I picked up ages and ages ago, it goes here. This is another instance of if you didn't know to pick it up when you went past it, you're going to have to backtrack a long ways to get to it. Which is one of the reasons why this game can take a while, or it can take 2 hours. And we have another boss fight. This is just boss fight to boss fight to boss fight. Okay, here I'm gonna sort of cheat. Normally I wouldn't do this, but just for sake of my sanity I'm going to, because the weapon that James currently has equipped, the Evil Horn, it's a reach weapon. And because the game defaults to physical attacks instead of magic when you're doing the menuing, it can be really annoying, and I have accidentally physically attacked enemies with James before instead of using magic. So just for my own sanity, I'll move him for this fight. Oh, also one thing to know about this game, the positioning of Kadelka is very much on purpose, because you want to have her directly behind Edward because it prevents him from getting pushed backwards. And if you prevent Edward from getting pushed backwards, then he can just be a nice little happy little wall for the other characters. And he can never get pushed past them by getting knocked back. However, if he dies, enemies can move past him. And if an enemy moves past a character that has been downed, they can no longer be revived. So that can lead to some instances where you just have a cascade of failure that ends in a game over. Because once an enemy moves past a downed character, you can't revive them, and then they just keep moving up and up and up, and then you end up having an enemy in Kadelka's face, and they hit her and she dies. Which is not something that we want. Oh, and by the way, this enemy is called Jezebel. Everyone say hi to Jezebel.
Hi, Jezebel.
A lot of the enemies in this game have very biblical references. The game in general has a lot of biblical references to it. In the fact that James is a priest, they have references to the Vatican in a lot of the cutscenes. In fact, James is a priest sent by the Vatican to this specific monastery. And a lot of the enemies are named like Jezebel, Apostle, things like that. He's getting weak here. Yeah, he can only take one more hit. Okay. I have an item. Oh. Well, this could be bad. I'm sure this is fine. The one downside of Edward being just a brick house of a man is he goes down really quickly to magic. Well, relatively quickly. And because he's in front, he tends to get hit more often with magic. So you do have to watch out on his HP. Because that's a lot of damage. Like, instead of attacking here, I'm going to heal Edward. Oh, or it doesn't matter because Kadelka is just an absolute powerhouse of a character and just killed the enemy. Okay.
So strong.
So strong. Most strong. Most strong. So you can see that I was upgrading Mind instead of upgrading Agility there. Now, the reason for that is Mind and Dexterity are really weird in this game. The manual says that Dexterity and Mind are sort of your hit chance ones. So it's like how accurate you are with your attacks. That's not actually what they do, though. And you never really upgrade Dexterity except once or twice with Edward in the very beginning of the speedrun. But you do want to upgrade Mind with the other two characters. And what it actually does is it doesn't really affect the hit chance. It's sort of a catch-all magic. It helps with damage, it helps with crit chance, it helps with defense. So you never upgrade Piety in the game, but you do upgrade Mind because it's sort of just a catch-all helpful stat. And Mind isn't really as useful because with the items and equipment that you tend to get in the game, you just use that for it instead. Instead of going to the door, I just ran into a wall. Oh, hey, a cat! Everyone, it's a black cat! Chat, I am so sorry. I am so sorry for this.
Oh, no.
Chat, I am so sorry. Don't hate me? Oh, it didn't die. I guess we'll have to hit it again. Oh, the poor kitty ran into a corner. The kitty has red eyes. It's obviously possessed by a demon. This is okay. This is totally okay, you guys. It's possessed. It's obviously possessed by a demon. It has red demon eyes.
Whatever you gotta tell yourself, you know?
And there goes the kitty. Okay, so the reason why you have to kill the cat if you end up getting into a random fight with the cat is it has a chance to drop an item called Cat's Eye. Oh. I'll finish my explanation after those. Okay. Oh, and I didn't even get the item. I just killed it for nothing. So, the reason why, if you ever get into a random encounter with the black cat, why you have to kill the black cat is because it can drop an item called Cat's Eye. The Cat's Eye... Oh, Kadelka, behave. The Cat's Eye is the most powerful mage-type weapon in the speedrun. It's not technically the most powerful mage-type weapon at all, but it's the most powerful one you have available to you during the speedrun. And if you get one of those and you can equip it on James or Kadelka, it pretty much makes the rest of the game a cakewalk. So I'm sorry, chat. It had to be done. I didn't even get the item for it, but it had to be done. If I had gotten the item, it would have been worth it, I swear. Okay, there's Roger again. The one thing that isn't mocapped in this game is like enemy animations. So that's one of the, so thankfully the cat dying was not mocapped as far as I know. They have to enter and exit this room twice in order to trigger 2 different cutscenes because I've met the requirements for both cutscenes, but they can't play them both at once. So this is Roger. I'm just going to show you guys Roger for just a second. So you guys can see how awesome he is. And then we're going to skip the rest of the cutscene.
Hey, Mr. Bacon.
Bacon's great. We love bacon. That's weird to say because I'm a vegan. But...
Yeah, I was going to say, hold on a second.
I mean, I did just kill a cat, though.
Oh, man.
I am world's worst vegan. Yes, chat, there is indeed bunnies behind me. Their names are Garrus and Tally. Okay, we have to go look at these books, because reasons. It says hearth in Greek. Because unless we look at that, we can't do something later. As per usual with this game. So we need a bottle. Thankfully, there's a bottle right here. Okay. Now it's time for Backtracking 2.0. Okay. Because that bottle I picked up, we have to fill it with acid. The problem is, the acid is all the way back a couple screens past where I used those dolls to open that door earlier. This game does love to make you backtrack. Thankfully, in a speedrun, we've got it down to the point where you don't have to backtrack too much compared to how much you would have to backtrack if you, for instance, forgot to grab the disc or forgot to grab some of the other items. There we go. Game is behaving for once. Excellent. I'm kind of dreading the next boss fight that's coming up here. For those who know Kadelka, there is one boss fight that whether or not you're playing it casually or you're playing it in a speedrun is the bane of your existence. This is a boss called Apostle. Now, I will explain it more when we get to it, but needless to say, this boss can either take you about 30 seconds or it can take you 10 minutes. There is no middle ground. Yes, I do speedrun a lot of sort of niche and rarer horror games. The ones that I'm most well known for is probably Fatal Frame 3 and Kuon. Which I will be playing Kuon at AGDQ next month, by the way. Cough, cough.
You know, when I planned this episode, I didn't on purpose choose two runners who were going to be in AGDQ just a few weeks later, but it was a happy coincidence. I will say that.
I got my runner shirt in just before stream.
Yeah, I've seen the social medias lighting up with some of those shirts. They look awesome.
Yes. All right, and just like usual, we run away from the fights. Except for the 1 or 2 times you don't want to run away from the fights. So the reason that the boss fight against the Apostle enemy is so annoying is it is an enemy that every single thing that hits it will heal it when it is doing a certain idle animation. So if it's doing a specific type of idle animation, you can't attack it. But the problem is, when it's charging its own attacks, it does a different animation, but you don't know what idle animation it's doing outside of the animation for preparing to attack. So half of the time you don't know if the attack that you're going to do against it will heal it or hurt it. It is the largest time sink and the most annoying part of this entire run. See if I can remember. This is yes, no, no, yes. You want all of those guys to be facing forward in order to open the door. Because this game loves having non-standard keys for doors. Okay. I am going to try one strat really quick. I'm only going to try it once or twice. In this room, you can get into a fight with an enemy called Mars. And that enemy drops an item called Scroll. If you get a elemental scroll that is anything but air, you can one-shot the Apostle boss, which is the reason why it can take either 30 seconds or 10 minutes. Now, I'm just going to try it a couple times, mostly because I hate the Apostle boss so much. And the Apostle boss could be a reason why we go overestimate. Because in addition to the bad RNG I got earlier, the Apostle boss really is that annoying. Now it is about it's a 50% chance getting into a fight to get a scroll. So theoretically in 2 to 3 fights, I should at least have a chance. And I'll only try it once just because of time, but... Now this is sort of the downside of having the mask item, the mask key item that has your counter rate. Oh, okay. The one on the left. The one on the left is the enemy we need to kill. I think it's Flare he doesn't like. Now, if you look at my hands, I'm actually keeping my hands specifically away from the triangle button right now because I have accidentally run away from these fights before. Just out of sheer muscle memory. Okay. All right, theoretically, I could run away at this point, but I am going to kill the other enemy just for XP sake. Oh, I didn't mean to wait on her. Oops. Okay, I need everybody to cross their fingers and hope that I actually get the item after we finish this fight. Because if not, it's gonna add another approximately 8 to 10 minutes to the run.
All right, come on. Give us that sweet, sweet, good RNG.
Yes!
Yeah. Woohoo!
Oh my god, thank you. Oh my god, thank you. Okay. So we got a fire scroll. And now even if you got a scroll, if it was an air scroll, it wouldn't you couldn't use it because the enemy is also just immune to air damage. Because it was a fire scroll, we're fine. Okay. Whew.
We can breathe.
Now I just have to not use it wrong. Okay, hold on to your butts. It's not out of the woods yet. Yes! Oh my god, okay. We're good. Okay. That is the... Outside of the part where you're alone with Koudelka and having to do a boss fight with just her, that is the most stressful part of this game. Of all parts of this game, that is the most stressful part. Also, he gives you a boatload of experience. Whew. Okay, everything's good now. There is one more minorly scary part later. Coming up in a moment here, but we are just about at the end of Disc 4, by the way. So Disc 4 is the last one, so we are almost there. That went, I was stressing. Because I did not want to be the person who goes over estimate, but with all the bad RNG we got earlier, if I hadn't gotten that scroll, we were for sure going over estimate.
RNG taketh away, but then it giveth.
Yeah. All right, and Disc 3 is done. Yeah, most of the XP you get in this game is not going to be from random fights, which is the reason why in the speedrun you theoretically don't have to do any grinding, but there is that one point where it is a good idea to do some grinding just to make it easier and safer later. But most of the XP in this game comes from the boss fights, which is right after a boss fight, you generally level up 2 to 3 times per character. All right, we are now on Disc 4. We are officially in Endgame. Now, I'm very sad that I'm skipping all of the cutscenes here because there is a cutscene coming up here in a second that's it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. Because Edward and Koudelka, while James is making a nitroglycerin in order to blow up the door that we just were near, that was locked, they get drunk. They decide while James is messing with chemicals to create a bomb, Koudelka and Edward are going to just have drinks next to a fire and have a good old heart-to-heart. It's the best cutscene in the entire game, and I'm sad that we had to skip it. But if you ever play this game yourself, you are going to be in for a treat, because, God, that cutscene is so good. Especially because it's all mocap, so you know that at some point somewhere there was a couple people covered in those suits with all those little balls on them having to pretend like they're completely plastered. we now have the bomb. Okay. And with that bomb, we are going to go through a doorway. And in that doorway will be a giant plant. Because this game has plants. Giant demon plants. So one thing in the story that, because we've been skipping the cutscenes, hasn't really been seen, is our characters at this point have discovered that all of the demons and all of the messed up things happening in this monastery slash prison slash everything is because James's old friend from his college days married a woman named Elaine. Now, Elaine was the love of both James and this guy named Patrick. But unbeknownst to James, until about halfway through the game, a third of the way through the game, is that at some point, Elaine was killed during a home invasion. And it was a little while after they moved into the Nemeton Monastery. Now, Patrick went sort of insane, as evidenced by the fact that the entire place is now covered in monsters, and he decided he was going to try to resurrect his wife, using something called the Emigre document that was currently hiding in the Vatican. And that's where James comes in, because it got stolen from the Vatican and taken to Patrick. And I'm just going to do a puzzle real quick before I finish the explanation. There we go. Okay. So Patrick got a hold of this Emigre document, and it had a whole bunch of secret black magic spells and things like that in it. And he decided he was going to try to resurrect his dead wife. And as we discovered in another cutscene where you actually get to talk to Elaine's ghost, she just sort of lays it out and says, yeah, Patrick totally resurrected my body, did not resurrect the soul in the body. So now there is a creepy demon, Elaine, currently being ensconced in a giant flower that we will have to take care of. And that is what we are headed to do now. So the moral of the story is, don't do black magic and leave things in the Vatican. This game is a very strange story. Okay. So this is the point of no return. The little tiny Daniel's arm thing that fell off of the chandelier way back at the beginning of disc 2, if you did not grab that, you would have to run around the entire monastery trying to find it, because that's what you need to throw into this vat.
Are you sure?
You throw this random desiccated arm, that's apparently the arm of a saint, into this vat, and it causes everything to explode and the entire monastery to get set on fire. Why does it do that? I have no idea. But it does it! So now everything's on fire and we are in the endgame. Alright. So these bosses are actually more scary than the final boss. So I'm going to focus a little bit here, because these bosses can very easily overwhelm you. And there's 2 of them in quick succession. The reason why they're scary is that they can do a lot of repeated attacks, physical attacks, very quickly, and if they are able to do enough that they take down Edward, they immediately move past him, which prevents you from reviving him. And they each have about 5,000 XP or HP, so. in casting magic if he's from the Vatican. He's a very special kind of priest. He's a very special kind of priest. They mocapped the Funky Tree animations? Yes, they mocapped all of the animations for the people. I'm actually gonna move Kadelka back up because she got knocked back a bit. Thankfully, these guys are tree roots, so their elemental weakness is fire. So all we have to do is just rapidly attack until we kill them. That is the dangerous attack, because that attack can even almost completely one-shot Edward, because you can see he only has 40 HP. So I would have been in very big trouble had that done another 40 more hits of damage to him. This is fine. Okay, this is bad. Thankfully, I have people who can heal, and because James pretty much has zero, or Edward has pretty much zero piety, he almost gets entirely healed from one heal. So at least that's a silver lining. Boy, I cannot get a break with the RNG today. This game knows.
All up.
Yeah, I used it all up getting that scroll for Apostle.
Mm-hmm.
Good God. Okay, you know what? James, we're going to a backup strat. James, you are now on healing duty. Ooh, okay, one of them's dead. We should be fine. The problem is if you have multiple of them up. Yeah, because if there's only one of them left, they usually move backwards in order to get away from you. So we should be good now. Now, you guys may have seen there that something popped up on screen that said something like Kadelka's magic level went up. This game actually does have progression for magic and for your weapons. The problem is because we're going so quickly in the speedrun, it generally doesn't matter in this in the speedrun. Though usually Kadelka's flare ability will usually about this point go up by 1. Now, what that does is it doubles the XP, or doubles the MP cost, but it also doubles-ish the doubles-ish the amount of damage it does, and if there are multiple enemies next to each other, it can hit multiple enemies at once, which is what you saw during the last flare that I used. Oh, that was a rough fight. That can be both a good and a bad thing. Because now, because that flare went up 1 level, I should not use that during the final fights. Because if I do, there's a very good chance that I could run out of MP on Kadelka, which is very, very rough. All right. So they all leveled up, so they should all be full healed. Now, I usually don't use this, but I did see that I got an agility idol. I want to use that on Kedelka. Now, I'm just doing this for safety because it's helpful during the final fight. You normally don't have to do that. What those items do is that they give you just some more of that stat. That's it. And you want to have Kedelka have a little bit more agility for something that's going to be coming up during the final fight. Now here we go with another mini-boss against some more absolutely terrifying little vine enemies. Thankfully, there's only two. Downside, the one with the body behind it has twice the HP of the other ones and hits harder. But I'm gonna make sure that I take out the other one first, just to make it so there's only one of them, because then it makes it easier. It's when there's multiple of these guys that it gets scary. Well, it's been a while since something's actually missed. This game is it's beautiful for a PlayStation 1 game. I agree. He should only take one more flare attack to kill. Sometimes this game also involves a little bit of trying to keep track of HP in your head. Especially because of this enemy. Specifically because of this enemy, because he is a pain. Now, the body that is ensconced inside that enemy creature, that is Patrick, the husband of Elaine, the one who tried to revive her, and the one who caused the entire mess in all of these monsters in the monastery. So, it's all his fault. Okay, now this fight should be much easier. I always find that this fight to be much less of a headache than the other one because of the fact that there's only two of them. The downside is it does a lot more damage. This might be a little scary. This might be a little scary. All right, for safety reason, I'm just gonna put James back on heal duty because I do not trust this enemy. Okay, that's not good. That's not good.
No.
It's okay. I have sort of a backup strat here. All right. We're gonna move her behind James because I can sort of use the bodies as a weird shield, if that makes sense. It is sort of a backup strat that you can do. Now, because the enemy has moved past James or past Edward's body, I can't revive him. Which I'm going to focus a little bit because this is scary.
You got this. You got this.
Oh, okay. he had less HP than I thought he did. Whew. I was sweating a little there. Funnily enough, it's more those fights are more scary than the entire final fights. All of the final fights. Those fights are the scary ones. Do I have everybody full health? No. Okay, we are about to go into the final fights. Now, if you didn't have the pendant here, then you would have to get it from a random drop, and it is a very rare random drop, or you'd have to load a previous save. There is... I can't remember if there is a permanent save point on Disc 4 in this area, but there is a temporary one, and thankfully you can't save over a permanent save with a temporary one. But you can theoretically soft lock yourself. Now I'm going to save here just for safety, because even though these fights are generally more consistent than the root fights, they can still be scary. Okay. You see that giant flower there, chat? That is the flower that houses Elaine. Or the body of Elaine. That it will be birthed in the cutscene that happens right here. Now, at this point, if you did not have the pendant, you would game over. But because I have the pendant, and because I got it earlier, instead, Elaine bursts out of that little flower thing and starts chasing us up this tower. You can't see it because it's an RPG, but she just caught up to student attacked. So you have 2 boss fights against normal Elaine. They are pretty much the same, except her elemental weaknesses switch. Also, just bask in the glory that is this music real quick, because it is the best music in this game. All right, for this one, now this is a different strategy. Instead of actually attacking the enemy outright, you're going to cast Reflect on James and Kedelka. Now, the reason why you need to do this is because Elaine hits like a truck and has a lot of HP. So we're going to use that against her, because by casting Reflect on ourselves, we are going to reflect the damage from her magic back onto her, and it will generally do more damage quicker than actually attacking her with magic. Now you've got to keep an eye on it because Reflect only lasts for so long. But, oh, and also you can't use physical attacks, so Edward is completely useless in this fight. You can use physical attacks in the next fight, you just can't use them in this one. Elaine needs to work on her posture. She's a little double jointed right now. Let's just say that. I wish I could have shown you guys the FMV, but she's got some problems. Okay. So now here we are going to wait. Come on. Okay, still reflect. Okay. Now we were specifically waiting for her to start casting, and then we were going to cast, for safety reasons, I'll cast Tornado. just because I don't want to end up running out of MP during the fight. Okay, there you go. She took 2,000 damage from her own attack. Okay, we still got Reflect. Now, James is less useful in this fight. It's mostly up to Kadelka because she still has much higher stats than James does. So just for safety's reasons, I guess we'll heal Edward. Okay, I still have Reflect. Come on, Elaine. I still have it. Now, I'm double checking to make sure I still have Reflect because Reflect only lasts for so many turns and we need to make sure that I have it. Okay, we still have it. Because I was waiting for her to attack in order to attack her. Because you're sort of gaming her AI in order to have her attack us in order to damage herself. There we go. And when she starts shaky, shaky dancing like this, you know she's close to death. So shaky, shaky dance means she's close to the fight being over. And the reason that you do it this way is in order to get through the fight as quickly as possible without having to recast Reflect. That actually went really well. I'm kind of scared. Alright. And now we have to do that fight, pretty much the same fight again. I forgot to heal. Hylisto on Kadelka. Okay. The second fight is the same, except now Edward can actually attack her, and the elemental weaknesses shift. So you do the same thing, except instead of casting Tornado, you cast either Megalith or Geyser, which is earth or water attacks. After, of course, casting Reflect. Edward can't do much, but he thinks he helps.
He tries his best.
He tries. He's trying. He tries his best, but even though she's not immune to physical attack, she has an extremely high vitality stat. So she's functionally useless. Okay, I'm gaming the AI again, the same way I did in the last fight. Yes, I got a double hit. Okay, that's good RNG. Because usually, at least either the hit against Kadelka or the hit against James will miss. It's relatively rare for both of them to hit. That was actually pretty good RNG. For now. Okay. Okay. Elaine's doing her shaky shaky dance, so you know that she's close to dead. Now, I'm not healing Edward on purpose there, and I'll explain it as soon as we finish the fight. Okay. The reason we're not healing Edward, and I'm not going to heal any of the other characters, is we want to die in the last fight as quickly as possible, because time will be at the last attack against the last party member. So as soon as the last party member dies, it's time. Because we are getting the bad ending, which involves losing to the final fight, which happens now. And it can take anywhere from a minute, 30 seconds, to about a minute and a half. Because all we are doing is waiting until she kills us. Which could take only one hit, could take two. If she attacks the magic, it should only take one. Okay, you're gonna want to get ready on time. Ah, she only did attack on one. Okay. So it's gonna take a little bit longer because we have to wait for her to kill the other two. Because she moves slowly. Because she can't do an attack that attacks everybody at once, and if she does that, see, that's the reason why it's really, really hard to fight this final boss. If she does the attack her first time that attacks every single enemy or every single character at once, the fight's over in 30 seconds. And time.
Ooh, GG.
Whew, how bad was it?
You are gonna be underestimate for sure.
Woo!
229.45.
Oh,
so,
barely.
Yeah, still counts though. Still counts.
I had to fight for it. So in this ending, James pretty much gives up his own life to take out the boss. So in the ending where you defeat the boss, he survives. In the canon ending, which is the one that goes into Shadow Hearts, he dies. But GG.
Yeah, GG's. Any last plugs or shout outs you want to do before we get ready to transition over to our next show?
Shout out to Regina Marie on Instagram. She is my friend from high school who technically is the one that I stole this game from back in high school about 15 years ago. I apologize, Gina. You can't have it back. It's mine now. I would also like to give a shout out to the bunnies that you guys have been seeing in the background this entire time. If you want to see more of them, you should come check me out on Twitch. They have their own dedicated webcam that is on every single one of my streams. And they have ruined world record speedruns before because they like to try and come and double my ankles when I'm trying to do runs.
Oh my.
But other than that, yeah, come check me out on Twitch if you guys like what you saw. I do a lot of Kuon. I do a lot of Fatal Frame games, some old obscure horror games. I also like to play RPGs occasionally, not just horror-based RPGs like Kadelka. But yeah.
All right.
My name is Miss Scarlet Tanager.
Yes, absolutely. And I just wanted to take the time to thank Miss Scarlet Tanager as well as Punchy from before for being on this awfully spooky episode of Awfully Silly. Just wanted to remind everyone as well, if you've missed any of our GDQ Hotfix shows, don't forget that you can check out the archive of past runs on YouTube at youtube.com/gamesdonequick. And we also have a highlights channel, which is GDQ Some of Best Segments. That is launched on YouTube. It shows regular videos just like our main channel, but with a small highlight reel for all of our main events and hotfix shows. You can actually use ! highlights in the Twitch chat to learn more about that. But yeah, thank you so much. After this, we're going to be having That's Never Happened Before with A Link to the Past by Fant, who I see in the chat. Thank you so much. And if you like the show, like I said, every 2 weeks on the Team Velocity schedule, Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, you'll be able to find Awfully Silly. Taking a break, obviously, from 2 weeks from now because AGDQ 2022 online will be happening. Yeah, and my name is Conception SR, and thanks to everyone for watching. Stay tuned for That's Never Happened Before.
It's okay. I have a feeling that someday